Yesterday, I don't know if it's still yesterday, but anyway, Moore's Law is Dead released a video claiming that Intel's Arc may be canceled before Battlemage, so that's the second generation architecture after Alchemist, canceled before Battlemage even comes out. This apparently has not yet been decided, but is being discussed internally because the whole project has apparently been a poo show, and there are serious hardware level problems with Alchemist, allegedly. So that's the first generation architecture. According to the rumor, this is potentially tied to Igor's Labs findings that have shown that the performance in games, even tier 1 games, so those are the ones that perform best on Arc, does not scale well with resolution and can have brutal API overhead. This points to a potential hardware flaw in the scheduler, which would also help explain why the performance can be so bad without resizable bar enabled. In his testing at low resolutions like 720p, the A380 struggled to get above 100 FPS, even though it was close to that mark at 1080p, which is a lot more resolution. Moore's Law is Dead has been saying for a while that Intel manufactured their cards in Q1 and that those dies have been just sitting in a warehouse waiting to be packaged. When they made these chips, they assumed that the driver problems could be solved in the next couple of months, then in May or June realized the problems were there to stay. So, and this is all allegedly, they axed the A780, which was supposed to be allegedly the top tier card, which Intel says never existed, and will only be launching the lower end cards. Apparently, there were inconsistencies between what we were shown when Intel was here the other week and what is being shared internally. So there's a thing here with some SKUs. Okay, above is apparently a schedule handed out within Intel. I guess I might as well just screen share with you guys. Here is my screen. Here you go. Some SKUs with some launch schedule. So here's A360 at week 25, which is mid-June. And then supposedly early July, we should be seeing A770, A750, and then later on the middle tier. So entry level, high end, and mid end. The cards were supposed to start launching at this point. AIBs, so AIBs would be the add-in board partners who actually manufacture the finished cards. Intel just makes the chips themselves. At this point, AIBs are still in the dark as to what's going on. Here are some quotes, also from Moore's Law is Dead. Source 1, to this day, we don't know what's going on. Source 2, why do you keep asking if Arc is launching this month? We have no evidence that it's in this quarter. Source 3, we're going to sit this gen out as much as we can without entirely burning bridges. It's just taking too long and we resent being strung along like this. This, apparently, is backed up by leaked internal Intel documents where the general availability date is still to be determined. Even a couple weeks ago, internally, Intel was saying cards would be delivered to SIs in July, but July is going to be over on Sunday. I don't think they're going to be doing a lot of deliveries on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, probably not.
And you still cannot get an Arc in a system integrator system. A more recent Intel slide says Arc Story, not Arc Launch, in September, all of which means that as of a month ago, Intel was saying they would be launching all SKUs to OEMs in July, and add-in board partners would be launching in August, but it is now August, essentially, and add-in board partners still don't have the final BOM and design for any of them, let alone the entire lineup. It should be noted that when Intel came here, so I'm off the script now, when Intel came here, they showed us an Intel first-party board, not a third-party board. Whereas the A380, the one that's actually already launched, well, that was with third-party board partners. Anyway, apparently all of this has, quote, annoyed executives at Intel because they don't know what an Arc Story is and are tired of the chaos. This annoyance can be felt in this quote from Intel's latest earnings call. So this is from Pat Gelsinger, Intel CEO. This quarter's results were below the standards we have set for the company and our shareholders. We must and will do better. The sudden and rapid decline in economic activity was the largest driver, but the shortfall also reflects our own execution issues. We are being responsive to changing business conditions, working closely with our customers while remaining laser focused on our strategy and long-term opportunities. Boy, is that ever a lot of words without saying anything.
It sure is.
We are embracing this challenging environment to accelerate our transformation.
That sounds like CEO talk to me.
Yeah. That didn't even really sound like annoyed with ARC specifically, but ARC is certainly something that hasn't gone perfectly this quarter.
Yep.
Here are some leaked internal discussions, allegedly. There are high-level discussions going on regarding the cancellation of dedicated desktop ARC cards. Data center stays for now, but the dedicated gaming card may be canceled before Celestial even gets a chance. Another source apparently said to Moore's Law is dead, I cannot confirm the cancellation of discrete gaming ARC, but I also can't say it isn't being considered. It could be. What I can confirm is no good news is coming out of the graphics division at the mid-level, and if they do cancel Battle Mage, marketing will still hype up ARC until that decision is actually made. Now, this rumor I've also seen. There could be plans to have an Alchemist refresh in 2023 instead of launching Battle Mage, because that is allegedly also having issues, which could suggest there are silicon-level issues with Alchemist that can't be sorted out with drivers. That would be, if you're going to refresh a sort of mediocre performer, you'd think it was to, like, fix something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. This sucks. Because I want this to do well, because more competition in the GPU space would be good. But this sucks for two reasons. One, more competition in the GPU space would be good. If it's not competitive, it doesn't really solve that problem. And also, if it isn't allowed to stay on the market, it by default doesn't solve that problem. So hopefully they can figure it out.
Now, obviously, Intel isn't just taking this, whether you want to call them leaks or whether you want to call them rumors or allegations or whatever it is. They're not just ignoring this, believe it or not. I would have kind of expected Intel to just say, sorry, no comment, until we announce something. It's not happening. But Raja Kaduri has already responded to tech journalist Anshel Sag, saying, thanks, Anshel. We are very much committed to our roadmap. We are ramping Alchemist and will continue to improve the experience. You will see more updates from us this quarter. AXG is also on track to ramp 4 new product lines by the end of the year. Wow. Now, some of these things do kind of jive with my vibe, if I could kind of put it that way. So the overall opinion from Tom at Moore's Law is dead is this. Intel manufactured the dies in Q1 with plans to sell this summer. Then things went quiet until the recent media blitz that we were part of, and probably was brought on by our brutal A370M review. Apparently, this media blitz took people internally at Intel off guard because in there, it's still a poo show and they have no clue when things will actually be launching. Tom, and this is Tom from Moore's Law is dead, read is that sometime in Q2, they discovered there's a fundamental hardware flaw that can't be fixed with drivers and will require adjustments to silicon. The problem is your shareholders, right? They need to get what they've made out now and launch it as low-end cards in order to recoup at least some of the cost. All of this has prompted the top brass at Intel to seriously consider if this is worth all the work, given the problems with Alchemist and, apparently, Battle Mage.
Sag.
I don't know, man. Like, I have a hard time believing that Intel would allow this to be another Project Larrabee, especially when you go back and look at Larrabee. Was Larrabee really a failure? Obviously, as a desktop GPU, absolutely. It never even made it across the line, but it would become Knight's Landing, Knight's Corner. It would become Xeon Phi, which was a viable product line for Intel for years to come.
Yeah.
And given that even the rumors seem to suggest that the data center product is not going anywhere, if you're going to build the data center product, I mean, doesn't it just make sense to also have a consumer product? shouldn't you have as broad a product line if you're going to build this IP as you possibly can? I mean, there's a reason that Nvidia and AMD are doing that. It's not, though, to be clear, it's not that there aren't companies entirely focused on widely parallel compute devices for the data center. It's not like CEO Pat Gelsinger isn't against killing something that isn't working out. Optane has now officially gotten the axe. But the thing about
Optane ran for a long time.
It did, but for Optane, the writing has been on the wall for much longer. I mean,
that's what I'm trying to say. Is like,
oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I could have said it a lot better, but yeah, Optane has been around for a long time. When's the last time you heard about it?
Well, the issue is that Micron pulled out, so Intel was left with basically no actual manufacturing capacity for Optane. And then
didn't this say they had a ton of inventory still?
Yeah, and they had a ton of inventory that they were selling through. The really wild thing is that, I guess we're changing topics now. The really wild thing is that the Optane team was apparently showing off benchmarks for their persistent Optane DC modules like a few weeks ago. Look at this. This is next-gen Optane modules to go with Sapphire Rapid CPUs.
This lines up with what the previous topic was saying, though, where they were saying marketing will keep pushing it up until the exact moment that it's canceled.
So then, I think back to this topic, let me have a look here. Back to this topic. What I was told prior to WAN Show, it doesn't appear to be in my notes, but what I was told prior to WAN Show is that we can expect a statement soon. It's possible that this tweet from Raja Koduri that I read out to you guys earlier is the statement, but I was told by Ryan Trout that we could expect a statement refuting these claims. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's going to be hard for us to say anything without looking like idiots in 6 months. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the reason that we don't really focus on rumors here. We tend to wait for the actual product to arrive. So in our case, we had an actual Arc Alchemist GPU that we were able to, in a limited capacity, use and evaluate. And then, from my perspective, that's it until I get retail hardware that is actually launching, and then I'll be happy to evaluate it again. But you can't ignore rumors like this. I mean, this is explosive for them after all these years, after all these millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, to just say, you know what? Screw it. No GPUs. We're done. We're out.
It's weird. I don't like it. It's hard to take off the... I don't even know what hat you would call this, but the person who wants Intel to make GPUs hat. You know what I mean?
The enthusiast hat.
Yeah, the enthusiast hat. It's hard to take that off. From a business perspective, honestly, yeah. I get it. If you have all this money going to this product, if making it for literally any amount of time further is going to cost a massive amount of money, like this, just knowing what like the engineering that's going to have to go into that, etc., is going to cost, like it will be piles of mountains of money. And you know that your next release is like already screwed? Yeah, I can understand questioning it from a business side, but
yeah, you don't go out of your way to lose money for 24 months.
Yeah.
When you've already been losing money for 36 months, that's a long time to get literally zero ROI. Like Intel, I mean, we know some of the high profile people working within the ARC group. I mean, it's not like people like Tom Peterson, Raja Koduri, Ryan Trout, for that matter. Like, even the ones I can name off the top of my head ain't cheap, to put it mildly. And that's just, I mean, that's the very surface, the snowflake on top of this iceberg, right? Yeah. So I get it.
It's an expensive project. At the same time, putting the enthusiast hat back on, it would be really good if and then this is where we get into problems, because if they don't, then it doesn't solve that problem. But if Intel had a competitive GPU, I don't need it to be, I think some people were expecting it to be like the best one. I don't need it to be the best one. I need it to be a competitive GPU. If it's like a 4060 killer, then sweet. If it's like better for it in a price to performance stance, or maybe it wins because its thermals are way lower or something like that, then like sweet. Or maybe 50-60 by the time we get out there. I don't know. But like,
Can I put on my conspiracy theory hat?
Okay. Yeah.
If what Moore's Law is Dead says is true, that people internally were blindsided by this media blitz that happened for Arc Alchemist, if that's true, is it possible that the media blitz was a strategy to generate hype and generate support for the project because they knew it was possible that they were going to get the axe?
So it's people internally trying to avoid the axe.
By making it public, getting gamers, getting the community hyped so that they can try and buy themselves some more resources and some more time. Is that possible? I mean, I wouldn't put it, it's not impossible.
The iceberg you described has some smart people in it, and especially as you described on top of it. So I wouldn't put it past them. You know, if this is genuinely the situation they're in, I hope that's it then. Because, like, I don't want this to go away. It's really easy to say that when it's not my millions and billions of dollars going out the door.
Right?
So, like, yeah, keep spending, guys. Get her done.
Look.
Yeah, it's not my money. Let's go.
Money machine, go burr.
So, yeah, I hope they succeed because I want to see it. I want to see it hit market, and I hope it will do well. And like if Battle Mage is already screwed, hopefully the third one that I always forget the name of, whatever it is, hopefully that one they're able to fix it for. If Battle Mage is also screwed though,
that's not good.
Yeah.
Because I mean, okay, Alchemist not even out yet. It's now midway through the summer. So our best case scenario is what? Alchemist is out in Q3 at this point, right?
So we're looking at like 2024 version 3.
You need to sell some Alchemist before you can launch Battle Mage, presumably. So at best, if Battle Mage still has problems. I mean, what was really cool was recently we got to take a look at Intel's development process, right? When we toured their design facility in Tel Aviv. And so what I know then from talking to them about how it works, where the design goes to the fab and then it takes like 6 to 8 weeks and then it comes back and then they start evaluating it. They find a problem, send it back to the fab. Oh boy, now we get to wait another, however many months, right? Like if there is a hardware level problem with early Battle Mage silicon, which they would have right now, that could push it into 2024, like you said. And so if they're expected to, sit here and wait another year and a half to have any hope of making, consumer graphics card, right? What, $300, $400, right? Okay, at best, the AIB is going to take, 5 to 10% of the margin on this $400. There goes $40. The retailer is going to take 5 to 10%. So let's say worst case scenario, right? Like there goes another $40. So that's $80 of your $400. Intel doesn't make every component of the board. They don't make RAM. So there goes, I don't know, maybe another $50, $60. These things start to add. How much margin is there actually in making a GPU and providing a reference design to board partners?
Especially when if Alchemist and Battle Mage are both screwed, what is customer sentiment going to be? Are you actually going to even be able to ship that
So
many?
if you're making, $150, let's say best case scenario, you're making $150 per chipset. Now, hold on a second. No, because I didn't even factor Intel's cost fabbing the chip. I got all carried away with the extra cost. Right, they still have to actually fab the chip.
And marketing and stuff.
Using up capacity that presumably they could use for something else as they build out. Oh, that's the really scary one if I'm on the ARC team. Capacity.
Yeah.
Now, it used to be that Intel had a project. They set aside their own fab capacity for their own project. And that, to a degree anyway, is like it. But if they could just sell this capacity to a third party, like a TSMC or like a Samsung, then all of a sudden, Intel's internal products have to compete for profitability for Intel's fab space with external products.
And we know how long it takes fabs to come online. I know there's been some complaining from the other companies about Intel getting this, like, whatever it's called, but the grants they're getting to set up fabs in America.
Yeah, now hold on a second. TSMC is fabbing Alchemist, but I don't believe that TSMC has any kind of deal, at least that we know of, to fab Battlemage. So I'm talking about Battlemage, when they're actually trying to get some kind of a return on this investment. It's like, okay, what's our best case scenario? Maybe $100 a chipset. I'm just, these are random numbers, but it's got to be somewhere in between $50 and $150, just looking at all the other components that go into making up a graphics board. And that's the problem with consumer hardware, is that silicon costs literally exactly the same as what you're going to put in a data center product, but instead of making, $1,500 on it, you're going to make $150 just because the pricing is an order of magnitude higher. Sorry, what were you saying? I kind of ran over
I was talking
you
about no, it's fine. I was talking about the American Fab. You know how Intel's getting
the Chips
this
Act.
The Chips Act. There's some other companies that are upset about it because they think it's giving Intel an unfair advantage, blah, 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 blah. That fab is going to take a really long time to come online.
Oh yeah, 3 or 4 years. Easy.
And it's not even started construction yet.
Yeah, they haven't even broke ground because they were kind of putting a gun to the U.S. government's head, like, hey, if you guys don't pass this act, we're not gonna build any fabs here, which is fair enough, I guess.
So we're like that new fab isn't even in this conversation really.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so far out that this thing is probably going to be axed or dedicated to before then.
Now, to be clear, some of the CHIPS Act funding is set aside for fabless makers, but a big chunk of it is set aside for semiconductor fabrication, which Intel is one of the top 3, and TSMC and Samsung probably aren't building fabs in North America anytime soon. Actually, I thought TSMC was looking at something.
But the CHIPS Act is pretty intense, so they might be because of that.
No, I think even before that. Yeah, guys, I don't know. That's sort of ringing a bell for me, but I don't know.